And I'll bring my PowerPoint up here. Okay. So I want to welcome everybody. I thought that I would do something different tonight. There's a lot of people have been interested in iridology and asking me, asking me a lot of questions about, do the eyes change, and about family, and can you see the same markings in the family's eyes, and what does it mean, and all those kinds of things. And so I thought I put this little presentation together with my family, and this kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with your family if you're interested. You can get good, if you can get good pictures, there's all kinds of things that you can do. So let me start out here by just welcoming you and thank you for taking the time to be here with me tonight. I really appreciate it. There were about 100 and probably about 105 people that responded. And a lot of people are, in other countries and different time zones. And so, they can never attend, but I'm recording this so you can watch it again. Or if you have to leave, you can watch the recording. Or if you have a friend that's interested, please share it. This is available to, to anyone that is interested. So my name is Brenda Generale, and I am a certified comprehensive iridology instructor through Ipa, which is the International Iridology Practitioners Association. So it's international. And I'm also, my company, Joyful Living Services, is now a sanctioned school, which is very exciting. And we are accredited by the International Iridology Practitioners Association. I am also a certified nutritional consultant with the American Association of Nutritional Consultants. I've been in business since 1989. 1989, I got certified by Dr. Bernard Jensen down in Escondido, and I've been in business ever since. There's my website if you want to learn more about what we offer. There's my email and phone number if you want to get a hold of me. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself here. So this was me here years and years ago when I volunteered at Dr. Jensen's, and I volunteered at his 100th birthday party. They needed volunteers to take pictures of the participants' eyes, and so I took, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of pictures of people. So my path to iridology started in 1983 when I had my health issues. I was sick. A lot of people that come to learn iridology come to learn it because they're interested in offering the service to other people. They're interested in iridology. They want to do a business, or they want to help their friends. They want to help their family. And so for me, I fell into it. This wasn't, at the time I was working at Stanford University. And so this was not something that I had planned on, starting a business and working with iridology. I had a friend that had endometriosis, and she was seeing an iridologist in the Bay Area and getting really good results. So she told me at the time, because I had a lot of digestive issues and stress, lots of digestive issues. And she said, to find an iridologist, which I did, and he helped me. And then I sent some friends to him and he helped them. And then one day I asked Chris, I said, how do I find out more about this? And he said, Dr. Jensen's in Escondido, call him, and he gives classes. And I called him, and it just so happened that he was teaching another class in August. And I went down there just to do his beginning class because I was curious, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I stayed for the whole certification. I got certified. And the following week, I already had clients, and I was getting referrals from Dr. Jensen's office. So that is my history as far as iridology. So that's how I got into iridology. And in 2018, I became a member of Ipa and became an instructor. First, I became certified in iridology, then I became an instructor, and now Joyful Living is a sanctioned school. And today I see clients all over the world. I do a lot of remote readings because of the virus. A lot of people don't want to be in person, so I do a lot of remote readings. My goal, my future goal, is to become a fellow of Ipa. I'm in that program right now. And I'm doing some research on MTHFR, which has to do with methylation in the liver. If you're in my iridology group, you've probably seen the post that I'm working on that. And also well, I haven't started writing a book yet, but my goal is to write a book. My iridology class that I teach, which is level 1 and level 2, has about almost 1,000 slides now. So, you know, I can write a book pretty easily. It's just now it's a matter of time. It's a matter of finding the time to transfer all that information from PowerPoint slides into book format. And the name is going to be Iridology, The Path to Joyful Living, because that is my whole goal, is to help people have a joyful life. So let me get started, and let me explain here. I thought what I would do first, because there's new people that know absolutely nothing about iridology, and I thought what I would do first is just kind of explain, give you a little intro to the chart. So this is Ellen Jensen's chart here. This is her updated chart. And the way that iridology works, real simply, is the right eye shows the right side of the body, and the left eye shows the left side of the body, okay? So in the center of your body, you have your digestive system, right? You have your stomach, okay, and your colon. So here is the right side of the stomach, this green area. Here's the left side of the stomach. Around that are your intestines. So here's the right side of the intestines. Here's the left side of the intestines, okay? So you have the intestines that come down, cecum goes across, you have ascending colon comes up, transverse colon goes across, descending colon comes down, you have your sigmoid and out. Okay, on the outside of your body, you have your skin, right? Skin and circulation. So out here, this kind of purplish ring out here on the border, this is the skin. Okay, it's the skin zone, zone 7. And inside that, this is the lymph and the circulatory zones right here. Okay, so this is the right side of the skin and circulation. There's the left side. Okay, at the top of your body up here, you have your head, right, and your brain. And so here from 11 to 1 is the brain area here. And this is the sinus area here. So this is the right side of the brain, and this is the left side of the brain. On the bottom of your body, you have your feet, right? Your feet, your knees, your legs, your thighs, your lower organs. So here you have your hip and your thigh and your knee and your foot and your adrenals and your kidneys. And this is all down here. So this is the right side and left side. Here's the heart. Heart's on the left, but we've also found markings on the right. And then everything else is in between. Here's the spine. Okay, so this is the left side of the spine. Here's the atlas here at the top. Here's the tailbone at the bottom. Okay, here's the right side of the spine. Here are the lungs over here. These are the right lungs over here. Here's the breast. This is the right breast. These are the right ribs. This is the right nipple. Okay, here's the bronchioles. Same thing on this side. Okay, here's the breast here. This is upper breast here. Here's the lungs. This is the left side. Here's the breast, the nipple, the ribs. Okay, here's the bronchioles. And, you know, we have the liver, the spleen, okay, pancreas, thyroid, and so on. Okay, so everything is in the iris. When we look at the iris and we're looking at this map, or we're looking at this chart, we look to see spots and lines and marks and, you know, anything that shows up other than the natural color. And then we can see genetic tendencies. So what is iridology? Iridology is the study of the color and the structure of the iris of the eye as it relates to the genetic predisposition and health of the body systems. So, you know, in the past, what we used to do is we used to look at the eye, and we did, unfortunately, a lot of diagnosing. And that is illegal in the United States. We do not diagnose. We're not doctors. Why would we diagnose anyway? So what we have learned over the years is that the eye really does not change. It changes a little bit. What it does is you can gain markings in the eyes, or you can gain more color in the eye, kind of like you get age spots on your skin. Okay, so some of the rings can get a little bit darker. You can get more pigments in your eyes as you age. that is really how the eye changes. But as far as, I've heard repeatedly, well, what if I detox? If I detox, will the color leave my eye? Will my eye go from a brown eye to a blue eye? Or will all this orange in my eye leave my eye? And it does not, because it is genetic. So let me explain to you how iridology is used. By looking at the iris of the eye, we can see genetic tendencies, right? And by learning about your genetic tendencies, you can learn what you should eat, what you should drink, what types of exercises your body needs, the supplements, lifestyle, anything else that'll help you live comfortably in your body. So by looking at the eyes, we can see those genetic tendencies coming down from 5 generations, okay? Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, and your great-great-great-grandparents. And I tried to explain that a little bit in the, when I was talking about what I was going to talk about tonight. Most of us don't know anything about our great-great or great-great-great-grandparents, other than they all drank and they all smoked and they had a rough life. Some of us know about our great-grandparents and our grandparents, so we know some of their health, what their health issues were, and we can trace those. We can see those in the eyes. We can see those genetic tendencies in our eyes. Now, just because we have those tendencies doesn't mean that we are going to have the same problems. Okay, it depends on how we eat, how we live, what we think, our stress level, our lifestyle, the pollution. There are so many factors, our emotions, all these things. So, and iridology does not name any diseases. Okay, so we cannot look at the eye and say, oh, you have asthma or you have allergies. We can't do that. We cannot diagnose from the eye, but it does show us what areas need nurturing or strengthening or even cleansing. So let's say somebody goes on a massive detox program. They go on a detox program. They've been on a liquid food diet for 3 months, or a detox program, and they have a lot of orange in the center of their eye. That orange is not going to leave the eye because it's genetic. That's showing us the genetic predispositions. And that was passed down from parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, whoever is passing it down. However, the sclera, which is the white part of the eye, the sclera does change. The sclera does show cleansing. We can see that in the blood vessels of the sclera. So what happens in those blood vessels is, they may be very thick and bright, and what happens is they get thin. Okay, so they'll get thin, they'll get harder to see, and especially at the ends of them, they'll get very thin, and then we can see cleansing. Which is really great, because we need to know that somebody is actually having good results. So a person will feel much better, right? A person will feel better. Maybe they change their diet. Maybe they go on the Whole30. They're not eating grains and dairy, so they're not having, the inflammation, those reactions, and they feel better, but the iris doesn't change. The only thing that makes the iris change is the pupil. So when you shine the light in the eye, that pupil contracts, gets small. Okay, and when the pupil contracts and gets small, it pulls all of those iris signs in towards the pupil, and it makes them long. And we used to think that that meant that the eye was changing. Okay, now if we take a picture and we don't have as much light in the eye, then what happens is the pupil will stay large, and it pushes all of those markings out to the perimeter of the eye, and it makes them wide. We used to think that meant that the eye had changed as well. But what we've learned is that it's just the pupil contracting, expanding, that actually changes the eye. Let's see, somebody had a question here. Since the colors and markings are genetic, why aren't all these evident at birth or early childhood rather than somewhat later in life? The eye continues to change on a child up until really about the age of 7. And then usually around 7 years old, that child has that color that they're going to have. Now, as you age, there can be, like I said, more pigments can come into the eye. It can come in based on, let's say, for instance, let's talk about methylation. So methylation is a fancy word for liver cleansing or liver detoxing, which your liver does at like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're sleeping. Okay, so if the liver can't detox real well, then that shows up as brown in the eye. Okay, it shows up as brown. And now once it's there, it does not leave. Okay, so it will also show up in the sclera as yellow. And as a person detoxes and cleans their liver and detoxes, the yellow goes away in the sclera. So we can see that detoxing process leave in the sclera, but we don't see it in the iris. All right, so let me get into, I think the next slide is getting into some family history. So I am going to talk to you about the study that I've been doing, give you a little bit of information so that you can kind of see what you can do on your own. Okay, so this is Arthur. This is my father-in-law, and he's no longer on the planet. And so I know some of you have no knowledge of iridology, so I'm going to make this really easy and explain what some of these markings mean. So here's brown, and that has to do with liver. Here's orange, and this has to do with blood sugar, pancreas. Okay, here is a lacuna, and this has to do usually with an area that is not giving off toxins as easily and not absorbing nutrients as easily. Okay, these rings here, we call these contraction furrows. And we also know them as stress rings or nerve rings. Okay, we call them contraction furrows because we're trying to get away from medical terms. We're trying to use terms that explain the action. So these are created when there's a lot of stress in that pupil. Contracts, expands, and contracts and expands. But these also show genetic stress or anxiety passed down through the family. Okay, this here, this kind of whitish ring here, this is called lipemic diathesis. It's known as a cholesterol ring or hardening of the arteries ring or a sodium ring, or let's see, what are some of the other ones? High blood pressure, low blood pressure. All right, so instead of using those terms, we call it lipemic diathesis because it has been linked to high cholesterol and some of those things. So this is my father-in-law, and he had hardening of the arteries. He had a heart attack, he had a stroke, he had his carotid arteries cleaned out once or twice. He had a blockage in the lower part of his body, so he had to have that. He had to have a bypass to the lower part of his body so that he was able to get circulation down into his legs. And he had a lot of other things as well. He was diabetic and he smoked. Now, his eyes, the reason I took the pictures of his eyes is because he was in a lot of pain. He was having a lot of back pain at the time. And so I took his pictures because I wanted to see what would show up in his eyes. And sure enough, he has the orange in here. And when we see orange, that usually has to do with a genetic tendency towards blood sugar imbalance. All right, I can't say that just because I see that, that means a person has diabetes, or just because I see that orange, that person has hypoglycemia. I can't do that. Those are medical terms, and that's diagnosing. But I do know that his father was diabetic. Okay, and since then, he's got 3 children. 2 of his children are now diabetic. So this is a genetic predisposition for that family. Okay, and this happens to be the back area, and here we have this brown pigment in here, which has to do with liver. Now, at the time, I was not taking pictures. I wasn't taking pictures of the sclera, so, I don't have information on his sclera. We can see a few little blood vessels in here, but I can't really go into any of his sclera signs because I don't have them. Now, he was a very anxious type of person. He was very passionate. So, if he got upset about something, it was really loud. And at the same time, he could also come to your house and say hello and go sit in the corner and read a book. So very interesting. And also in iridology, we also look at the pupil. The pupil shows us the condition of the spine. So when we look at the pupil should be perfectly round. And you can see here that his pupil was not perfectly round. It's flat here, it's flat here, probably flat underneath the flash, flat over here. So wherever we see flattening, then that can tell us that there may be current issues with the spine. And he was having a lot of pain in his back. He did have high cholesterol. He did have high triglycerides. He smoked. You know, this shows up. Now, this is one of the things that can get thicker, this lipemic diathesis. It can get thicker, it can get whiter, and it has been linked. Actually, when I worked at Stanford, they did do a study, and they linked this ring to stroke, although they would not acknowledge iridology, you know, which was infuriating because they just wouldn't acknowledge iridology, but they did say that there is a link. Just because we see this ring, though, does not mean that somebody has high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high or low blood pressure. All right, that comes from talking to the client, asking the right questions, finding out their case histories. So whenever we see somebody, we always get their intake forms and get their case histories so that we can see what's going on and find out. And remember, this is genetic. So it's just because they have this marking in their eye doesn't mean they have high cholesterol or high triglycerides or hardening of the arteries or things like that. It means it's genetic. And depending on how they their lifestyle, what they eat, what they drink, what they do, what they think, and all those sorts of things, you know, that determines if they can awaken those genes or not. A lot of times when I see this, then there can be a positive MTHFR gene error, and that one is a C677T. And right now I'm doing that study, so we're linking pigments, and the pigment that we're linking is the brown pigment because that has to do with the liver. So that's a little bit about him. Then this is my mother-in-law. She is going to be 80 next year, and she has smoked all her life. She smoked even before she had gave birth to my husband, and he's 59. So she smoked all her life. She has now see, now that I've talked about it, you should be able to recognize at least one sign. She has blood sugar imbalance. So what happens to her is if she doesn't eat for a long time, she will get, you know, lightheaded and she'll have to sit down. And one time she almost passed out. So notice that she has orange in her eye. Okay, she has quite a bit of orange in here. And, you know, in the past, we used to think, we used to call these sora, or we used to say, oh, those are drug spots, or, oh, that's sulfur, or that's from smoking tobacco. And, you know, we can't prove it. We cannot prove it even through, you know, I mean, we'd have to do x-rays. We can't prove that. And a lot of times when somebody is checked for sulfur, you know, just because they have the color in their eye, it doesn't mean that they have sulfur. We can't prove it with the blood tests. So, you know, iridology is a science just like any other science. And we can't just make statements saying, oh, you know, just because you have orange in your eye, you're toxic. And this, you know, you need to cleanse. And once you cleanse, all this orange is going to be gone out of your eye and you're going to have beautiful blue eyes. You know, that's like saying somebody with a brown eye, just because somebody has a brown eye, you know, oh, if they do a detox, their eye is going to turn blue. Well, what does that say about somebody who has a brown eye? That's basically saying that they're toxic and they're dirty and, you know, and they need to cleanse. And, but you know what? Blue-eyed people are sick too. So it's kind of interesting. I've seen quite a few people say, well, you know, will my eyes change? The iris will not change. Okay, it really doesn't change. It changes minutely. One of the ways we do see it change is based on the clothing that you wear. If one day you wear a green blouse and another day you wear a blue blouse or a green t-shirt or a blue t-shirt, then that the light, or even the light outside, you know, or the light in the room. When you take a picture, you know, the hue, the light, you know, it will make the eye look a little different, or the amount of light that shined in the eye when you're taking a picture can change the way it looks. The other thing is the amount of liquid that's inside the eye itself, which is called the aqueous humor. Okay, sometimes that will change, and that will make the eye look a little different. Okay, but this is the color of the eye, and this is handed down through generations. So this orange shows us the blood sugar, a tendency towards having blood sugar issues, which she does. Okay, and then also a little bit here, you should remember this, a little bit of this lipemic diathesis. Now, I don't know, because she hasn't had blood tests, if she has high cholesterol. She's science of mind, so she works with her body by praying, and she does not go to the doctor. So we have no idea if she has high cholesterol or high triglycerides or anything like that. She does have trouble breathing, and that would show up out here in the lungs and also in the sclera. But there again, like I said, I didn't do sclerology at this time. Notice that her pupil is not perfectly round. It's flat here. It's flat here, right? And this kind of looks a little bit oblong. It's flat here. And so she does have issues with her shoulders and her hips. And so that makes sense. Now, these are my husband's eyes. And if you look, let me go back, look at his eyes and look at the fibers that he has and how tightly woven his fibers are. And then look at his mom. Very, very similar structure, very similar to his mom in his structure of his eye. And so my husband has a lot of yellow, and yellow has to do with kidneys. Okay, and he's got a little bit of orange here, but not very much orange at all. He really doesn't have trouble with blood sugar. He has a lot of mucus, which is typical for a blue-eyed person. Blue-eyed person typically has respiratory lymphatic issues. They tend to be very mucousy, have weaknesses in the, you know, tonsils and adenoids and lungs and things like that, get very mucousy, and the lymph. And sometimes if there's a lot of yellow, there can be swelling in the extremities, which he does have. So you see here, this is lymph here. So he does have some swelling down here in his feet during the summer. So, so let's see, what else did I want to tell you a little bit about? This here, this is the heart area. This is called the heart reaction field. Okay, so that's another thing. What I wanted to bring up on here is when we look at the eye, people say things like, well, look, here we can see your heart here, and it looks like there's a problem with your heart. Oh my gosh, we can't do that. We can't see the heart. We can't see the heart unless somebody cuts you open and opens you up and looks at your heart. You know, we can't see your kidneys. The kidneys are inside your body. We can't see your adrenals or the condition of your adrenals. What we see is the reaction. Okay, it's all through nerve impulses. There's nerves that go from all the organs through the spine and up into the brain. It crosses in the brain, and then it goes into the eye. And the nerve impulses come in here. This is called the collarette. This is where the signals come in, right here in this collarette, this ring. Okay, but it's the reaction is what we're seeing. So we call this the heart reaction field. So this shows us what's going on, or genetically what's going on. Okay, so genetically, this can tell me that there could be issues later on in life with his heart. Okay, both on this side as well as this side. And now his brother, who is 54 years old, just had a heart attack. It wasn't a massive heart attack, but it was a minor heart attack. Also, remember what I said about his dad is that he had a heart attack, he had a stroke, he had a stent put in here at his heart, he had hardening of the arteries and high cholesterol and all those kinds of things. So he has the genetic predisposition towards having heart problems. Does it mean that he does have them? No. But he has the genetic predisposition for it. So that tells us, okay, if I have blue eyes, then I know that I should stay away probably from dairy because it makes me mucousy. And I know that my predispositions are respiratory lymphatic. And then if I look here, I can see that I have possibly a genetic predisposition towards heart issues, especially because of dad. Therefore, I need to eat heart healthy, and I need to, take care of my heart, make sure I get enough exercise, make sure I do cardio exercise, make sure I eat heart healthy, and I take care of my body. Okay. And so that is really where iridology shines. It shines because it can show us that. And if we learn about our predispositions and we look and see, like for here, this was right at the gallbladder reaction field, liver reaction field right here. This is gallbladder reaction field. This is liver reaction field. So if we see a dark area here at the gallbladder reaction field, then it's like, oh, wow. Okay, so maybe I better not eat fast food and fried foods all the time. And, maybe I better take care of my body and pay attention to what I put into it. And also the emotions play a part as well. And see, I think his dad had his gallbladder. I don't think anybody's lost their gallbladder in the family, but this is how you can work with your own family. Okay. And you can figure out, what's going on with your parents and your grandparents, and then look in your eye and see, based on the chart, see where you have markings and kind of link that to your family and see, okay, so I have a little bit of orange here, and orange has to do with genetic predispositions towards blood sugar. So maybe I better not eat as much sugar. Maybe I better not drink a lot of soda. Maybe I better watch my carb intake, and make sure that I am being careful with my diet. I'm getting enough exercise. And, there's a lot of other things to do. I'm just kind of touching on some things. But these are ways that you can use iridology to help you. This is my mom's eyes. So I'm on my side of the family now. And my mom has what's called mixed biliary eye. We used to call this a dishwasher eye or a miasmic eye. In other words, an eye that would never clean. And that's just saying that somebody's body is dirty and toxic. And remember that these colors are genetic. This is never going to come out of my mom's eye. Here's brown. Okay, this has to do with liver. Here's brown. Here's orange. This has to do with blood sugar. All right. There's also these rings here I told you have to do with stress, anxiety. Here she has this lipemic diathesis that has to do with the possibility of cholesterol and lipids. Okay, so let me give you the history about my mom. So my grandma on my mom's side had a stroke, and my great-grandma on my mom's side had an abdominal aneurysm that she died from. My great-grandmother had diabetes. My grandmother did not. My mom does not. Okay, so there's the orange. That's the predisposition. She's got the predisposition for it, but because of her lifestyle, because of her diet, she doesn't have blood sugar issues. Okay, now my mom has had blood tests, and the last one she had, one of her numbers was really high. And when we researched it, we found out, surprise, surprise, that she is at high risk for cardio. Well, we know that already because my grandma had a stroke and she had an aneurysm and she died. And my great grandmother had, cardio. So we know that's already on, on the family. Okay, now, also notice that her pupil is not perfectly round, and it's flattened here and here. Okay, and she's got problems also with her back. Now my mom has stenosis of her lower back, and this brown pigment happens to be right in the low back area, which was really fascinating to me because I kind of wanted to see if there was something there, and sure enough, there is. So this has to do with liver. And the question then is that what's causing my mom's problems? Is it the liver? And does my mom have MTHFR gene errors? So I asked my mom to go have a blood test to get checked for MTHFR because she has the brown pigment, and of course she hasn't. So I'm hoping she will, because that would be very interesting to learn that. I did have the blood test, and I found out that I have a double C677T. And so I've got a higher risk of cardio, which doesn't shock me at all because of my case history. Here's my dad. Notice he's got this lipemic diathesis also, this white ring, okay? And he is a mixed color eye. He's not really a true brown. And depending on the light that shined in his eye, sometimes we can see some green in here, some blue in here underneath. Okay, so a mixed eye has both the blue underneath and the brown pigment on top. Okay, and then also based on a mixed eye person tends to have digestive weakness. So liver, gallbladder, colon, stomach, pancreas. All right, that's what a mixed biliary eye person tends to have issues with. My dad has had a stroke 3 years ago. Let's see, I think it was 3 years ago. Okay, he had a stroke. There's the lovely sign right there of the possibility or the genetic predisposition of stroke. He had prostate cancer, and this little lacuna here is right in the prostate reaction field. Okay, so I don't know if any other male on my dad's side had problems with his prostate. I do know that everybody on my dad's side, they're all in Italy, all of them, every single one of them has had high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high blood pressure. They've all had, almost all of them have had aneurysms. My uncle that lives here in Nevada, he has an aneurysm right now that he doesn't want to have. He's got an aortic aneurysm. My uncle in Italy just died not too long ago of an abdominal, oh my goodness, it just goes on and on and on. So that Mediterranean diet, I don't know how great it is, because I'll tell you, they all have that problem. Now, my dad's mom died of colon cancer. And so this is the colon area here inside this collarette. And he's got lots of the spaces in here. So he has colonoscopies all the time to check to make sure he's okay. And so this is really good, because then I can follow this and I can see, you know, where his markings are and what shows up in my eyes. So these are my eyes. Now, in my eyes, you can see this brown that's very dark here. Okay, this brown, remember I said brown has to do with the liver. And I did come out positive, double C677T gene error on methylation. Okay, so I have been taking methylation products ever since to help my liver. And will the brown go away? No, because it's genetic. That is who I am. And I have how many of these rings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Dr. Jensen had 2 in his eyes. I remember that because he made a joke about it when I was down there all those years ago. I still remember. And he said, and somebody asked him, well, you know, why do you have those rings? And he said, well, you know what? You've got to have a couple of rings to get anything done in life, you know. But this shows a genetic tendency towards stress and anxiety. And it also shows a genetic tendency towards muscle tension. And that's exactly what I do. You know, when I'm stressed, I tense my muscles and I get pain in my muscles. Okay. And so what I have learned for me is I go get massages. I have a massage every week. And if I don't have massages, then I start getting a lot of pain in my muscles. So massages really helps me. And these rings, you know, these rings also show genetic stress. This is also another way, you know, like parents, you know, when they want to go someplace fast and the kid isn't putting their shoes on fast enough, and the parents like, come on, let's go, run, come on, let's go quick. Okay, so that is something else that can increase the number of rings that can show up in the eyes. And most of us as parents have done that. Also, you can see I have this lipemic diathesis up here, which does not make me happy. So I have a genetic predisposition just like my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother, to the possibility of stroke. I do have problems with high blood pressure. I had preeclampsia when I was pregnant with my daughter. And when I gave birth to her, my blood pressure was 200 over 110. So this is something that's lifelong. It's not going to leave my eye. It is a lifelong issue that I'm constantly working on. So I'm constantly working on my diet. I'm careful with make sure I get enough essential EFAs, essential fatty acids. I make sure that I'm not taking in too much salt. I'm making sure that I get a lot of cardio exercise. And because of my eyes, because I know that I have a mixed biliary eye, and I have both blue, which you can see in here underneath, and brown, I know that my genetic tendencies are digestive. And if you remember in the very beginning, when I first started talking, I said that when I first went to an iridologist, I was very stressed and I had a lot of digestive problems. Well, there you go. There's the stress showing up right here, the tendency towards stress, and here's the digestive. So this brown will not go away, but my sclera will get better as I continue to work on my body. Okay, so here's my daughter's eyes, Josephine, and notice how large her pupils are. She likes to stay in the dark a lot. And I'm going to be getting new pictures of her eyes because I'm going down to LA at the beginning of December, and Michael Salas is going to take new pictures. So I'm hoping to get better pictures. But when the pupil is very large like this, it usually has to do with adrenal exhaustion. And she's tired all the time. She has these contraction furrows just like I do. Notice that when the pupil's large, it pushes all the markings out. So these contraction furrows are way out here in the perimeter, okay? But she has the same thing. When she gets stressed, she tightens up her body. And so she also gets massages once in a while. She's 19 and a half. I have brought her up with muscle testing and herbs, her and my son, and alternative medicine. And so I'm really happy that, she's open-minded, and she does know about alternative, and she does seek that out. And her eyes are pretty much the same color as my dad's, and her genetic predispositions are the same as mine. She has a lot of the same health issues that I have. Now, this is my son, and his eyes are completely different than my mom, than my dad, than me, than my husband, than Josephine, than the grandparents. Of course, I don't have pictures of my grandma or my great-grandmother's eyes. I don't have pictures of my grandfather or my great-grandfather's eyes. Now, my grandmother and my great-grandmother, they had blue eyes, and my grandfather and my great-grandfather, they either had mixed or brown eyes. I just don't know on my side. On my husband's side, you saw the mother, she had blue, the father had mixed. And he has a completely different constitution than any of us. So I'm still working on trying to find his eye type. He has a blue eye, and he does have lymphatic and respiratory weakness. He does tend to get sinus problems, which are right here. This is interesting. This is called a funnel here, and this is in the right shoulder area. When he was born, he had a brachial plexus injury. He was paralyzed in his right arm. And when you look at him now, his right shoulder is a little bit smaller than his left. This is genetic. This was here when he was in utero. Okay, this is a funnel, and wherever there's a funnel, there is compromised nerve energy to that area. And this is his shoulder. We did lots of physical therapy with him. We were lucky and avoided tendon transfer, and he's been in all kinds of sports, and he has most of his, he can do pretty much everything now with this shoulder. But this was here before he was born. It wasn't caused, the brachial plexus injury was caused when he was born, but this was already weak for him, and so that just led to that injury. Okay, so here I put everything together so you can kind of see, and this is where it gets fun. You know, if you do iridology, you can have grandma, mom, and daughter come in to see you at the same time, or grandpa and dad and the son come in and see you at the same time, or the whole family, and you can get all their pictures and you can put them all together and study them and find the same markings and put the slides up together like this and see how similar they are. Okay, so here's my mom, here's my dad, here's me, and here's my daughter. We're all very, very similar. Now, my mom, me, and my daughter, we have this very, very similar issues, health issues. Okay, very similar health issues. Ruth and my husband and my son have very similar health issues. However, my son has a really loose weave and he has more of a connective tissue issues. Like he's like double jointed and he's just kind of loose. Okay. Then my father-in-law and my dad both had lots of cardio stuff. And my daughter and I have, you know, we carry our stress the same way. So it's really interesting to do family studies and client studies like this. It's really cool when you can get, you know, different family members together and, you know, and then especially when you can teach them, hey, these are your predispositions. And so therefore since you have these predispositions, you may not have symptoms right now. However, know that this is a predisposition so you can take care of it now before it becomes a problem. You know, if you have orange in your eye, you know, watch your diet. Don't eat a bunch of junk. Don't eat a bunch of sugar. Don't drink a bunch of soda. You know, watch your carbs and take care of your body so that you don't become diabetic. You know, don't just be like an ostrich with your head in the sand and just figure you can eat and do whatever you want. And then later on you get diagnosed with diabetes and, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's where iridology can show you, hey, you've got orange and you need to be careful because maybe someday you might have a problem with that. Okay. Or, you know, or, hey, you have this lipemic diathesis here. You need to make sure that you're watching your fats and you're being careful with your circulation and getting a lot of exercise and, you know, and paying attention to your diet and so on. And so these are all really, iridology really is great for that. Here I put a slide together that shows the males. So this is my father-in-law, this is my husband, and this is my son. Very, 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 very different. Very different. Now, my husband is not, seems like so far, my husband is not following his father. Okay, he doesn't seem to be following my father-in-law. Somebody had a question here. What about green eyes? Green eyes are blue. They're blue eyes. So if you have a blue eye and you and there's a lot of yellow in here, it's going to look green. If your colon is well clean, if your colon is clean, there's a lot of changes to your body. First, fix the leaky gut problem. You know, you can work on the body. You can heal the body, yes, and fix leaky gut. L-glutamine is great for leaky gut. But also leaky gut can lead to autoimmune. And so in that case, if somebody has leaky gut, we still look at methylation, okay? Looking from outside to in, sort of yellow stripes alternating with reddish orange stripes. Oh, that was probably my dad. Yes. Okay, so anyway, this is also a great way to kind of see, you know, my husband is, like I said, he's not really seem to be following his dad in with the genetics. And so let me show you the next slide. Here is my husband's father, his mother, and him. Now look at this. You see how, once again, I'm showing you this. You see here that the fibers are very, very similar. The structure of the eye is very similar. This structure is not going to change. The structure of the eye doesn't change. The only way it changes, like I said, is that pupil. When the pupil gets larger, it pushes all the markings out, or when it contracts, it brings them all in. It's not going to change. So we used to say, oh, there's healing lines showing up now. And then we realized that's not true. It's just that the pupil's changing shape. The pupil's changing size, okay? But the structure is not going to change. This is who you are, but this changes. Look at this sclera. You see how yellow the sclera is? This all has to do with liver. All this yellow and orange in here has to do with liver. And then these blood vessels here, we look at these to see how thick they are and where they're going and what shape they are. And, you know, the pink, this has to do a lot of times with allergies, and she does have allergies, but she also smokes. This yellow has to do with fat. This is a pinguecula, has to do with fat, has to do with thyroid, and has to do with gallbladder, liver, and there's other pink in here as well. And so, you know, we can really see as somebody cleans up their diet, or they stop smoking, or stop doing drugs, or stop drinking alcohol, or they, you know, they change their diet, or they start getting more exercise. This sclera cleans up really nice. It really changes. But the iris does not change. And, you know, if you think about it, think about these security, you know, banks and government officials now are using the iris for identification purposes. Well, they wouldn't do that if the iris changed. It's just like your fingerprint. It doesn't change. The iris doesn't change. Okay, so they're using the iris for identification, just like the fingerprints. Okay, here's my side. This is my mom. This is me, and this is Josephine, my daughter. And we're all a mixed biliary eye. And we all have digestive issues: liver, gallbladder, colon, stomach, pancreas. And yes, you know, possible leaky gut. Now, can I see that in the eye? No. Okay, we used to think that these radial furrows here meant that there were parasites and leaky gut. And what we have found is this has to do with the nervous system. This doesn't have to do with parasites. You cannot see parasites in the eyes. You can't see that. Okay, there are markings in the sclera that we can say there's a possibility for parasites and candida. Okay, but we cannot see that. These radial furrows, which used to be called radii solaris, that does not mean that somebody has parasites in their body. Okay, it has to do with the nervous system. So that has completely changed. And there again, the brown pigments, where my mom has them here, I have them here in the digestive system. That's where I have it. And my daughter has it kind of all over the place. As we continue to work with our diet, as we continue to work with methylation, yeah, you feel better. Of course, you heal as you detox, as you cleanse, as you exercise, you feel better. And, you know, my sclera is pretty good. And my daughter's sclera is pretty good. Okay. My mom's sclera, not so good, but then she's 81 years old too, you know, and her diet is really good. So you will feel better as you continue to work on your body and heal and detox and do all these things, but the structure and the color of the eye doesn't change. Okay, and here's my dad and my mom and me. And you can see a little bit difference in color, but we're still all, on this, somebody asked about the striping. This is called ferrum chromatose. This is, it's also known as tiger striping, and it has to do with liver. Okay, it has to do with the liver. So my dad, I asked him to do the MTHFR blood test too. Neither one of them have done it. I'm just hoping one of them will, because that will give me answers. My guess is both of them will come out positive for the gene errors. Since I'm a double C677T, I imagine they're both positive. My dad has yellow as well, and he's always nauseated, and that has to do with liver as well. So here I put these together: father, mother, daughter, son. So that's my husband. This is me. This is Josephine. And this is my daughter, our daughter, and this is our son. And so you can see here again, Josephine and I are very similar. Now, my husband and my son both have blue eyes, but my son's structure is very different from my husband. So I'm kind of curious if I'm going to see if I can get pictures of my husband's brother and his side of the family and see if any of them have this iris structure. Somebody in the family does. hopefully that's still alive. And so that I can follow that line, and then that would, that can help him too, for when he gets older, to know what his predispositions are, so that he won't have the same problems that they may have later in life. Okay, so that's kind of the end of my talk. I want to thank you. Oh, and I'm right on time. Thank you for coming. And, I do teach. I'm an instructor for Ipa. A lot of people have been interested in the classes. The next class I'm teaching is February 16th through May 18th, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it is live through Zoom. I've set up 2 times. One is 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The other one is 5 to 7 Pacific Standard Time, which would be at this time. Everything is recorded, and I do have student login. So for people that cannot attend live, then they can go and take the class at their own pace and watch the recordings and turn in the quizzes. Registration is open. I do have people that are making deposits and signing up. We do have payment plans, very flexible. And because, it's more important to me, if you're interested in taking an iridology class, it's more important to me that you be able to take it than have to worry about, oh my gosh, I can't afford that payment. So, I set it up so that people are on all different kinds of payment plans. This is the link if you're interested in checking it out. I do private classes. I am traveling to LA, and I may be going to Idaho. We'll see. One of my students right now is talking about having me come out to Idaho to do some iridology. I do tutoring, and this is my contact information here if you're interested. And right now I am teaching. I've got 2 classes that are completing now, and people are going through. So what happens is you take level 1 and level 2 through one of the schools. You can take it through my school or one of the other Ipa schools. And once you pass level 1 and level 2, then you can take the Ipa exam. And Ipa is the International Iridology Practitioners Association. They are the licensing organization. And so you pass their test. They have a $200 charge for their exam. You pass their test, and then you can be a certified comprehensive iridologist, and it's international. And that is what's so amazing about it, is that it's international. So you can go to their website. If you look up the International Iridology Practitioners Association online, you can go to their website and see everybody on there, all the different countries that are represented, and the different schools, and you can choose if you want to take a class, who you want to take it through. But this is my next class here. Starts in February next year, and I've got it set up for 2 different times. Okay, so at this time, we'll see if anybody has any questions. And when I'm talking, unfortunately, I can't always see the chat, so it's hard for me. So let me see here. I would love to know why, when my mother got really angry, her eyes would look like tigers. Normally simply hazel when really angry, lots of yellow gold markings, scary for a child. Yeah, that's a really good question. Like I said, that aqueous humor in the eye, it does change, and your emotions play a huge part on on what's going on in your body. And under every physical ailment, there's always emotion. So when you get angry, everything changes. And if she had those contraction furrows in her eyes, when you get really stressed, those brighten up. They do brighten up. Your pupil changes shape. Your pupil, it doesn't change shape, it changes size. And your eye is going to get brighter or darker based on your emotions and what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And so that could have been something that happened. Let's see. Why is someone else taking her eye picks? I'm not quite sure about that question. What about green eyes? I answered that one. Liver is the anger organ. Yes, it is. And there are a lot of, Louise Hay, she's great. She talks about, if you have an ailment, what to do, which organ is affected, what part of the body is affected. And she talks about affirmations that you can use. And David Pesek has a really great chart where he talks about the different emotions being held in the different organs. And the liver is one of the ones that holds anger. So, there's so much anger in the world right now and so much strife and, lots of pigments out there. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see more of that. And you're welcome. You're more than welcome. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you spending your hour with me. I know that you could have been someplace else. So I really appreciate you being here tonight and spending your hour with me and listening to me talk about, this little study that I've been doing. You can do this on your own with your family and with your clients. And, it's not hard if you can get good pictures. That's the key, is getting good pictures and being able to see all those markings in the eyes. And also the sclera. If you take pictures, make sure you get pictures of the sclera. You can go, if you're not sure how to take pictures, you can go on my website and go to joyfullivingservices.com, go to videos. I have a lot of free little 1-hour webinars there, but also I have the video there that explains how to take pictures of the eyes. Kathy Norris did a little video and I've got that. And she shows you how you can use your cell phone and take pictures. And, you can learn a lot about your own personal predispositions and a lot about your family and help them. It certainly has helped us. So does anybody have any questions? I can, let's see, let me set it up here. So you can unmute yourself. If you have any questions you want to ask me, you're welcome to go ahead and unmute and ask. Or if anybody has any comments, you want to say anything? No? Okay. Well, at this point then, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to stop the recording here.